Hello, I'm Otto, and welcome back to Dyson Sphere program. So in the last episode, we set up this bot mall to kind of start making some items that will carry us into the mid-game. We also updated the logistics area so that we are producing the Mark III belts now, and I kind of noticed that we're a little behind on the sorters, which we'll get into in a bit. So we also set up some steel, which was over here, and we needed the additional steel for titanium alloy, which is over here, which is producing a lot of the materials that we need for, or the items that we need for the mid-game, one of which is the ILS. And you can also see we're a little behind on the processors. We are running out. We have run out of the supply that we brought back from the other planet, and we don't want to be going back and forth. So we want to start setting up our interplanetary logistics, which is also the interstellar logistics. But before we do that, we need to kind of correct this. So we do have a little bit of a bottleneck here, and that is the assembling machines that are making the electric motors. Part of that is because they're also feeding into this, so we're going to get rid of this. We can also then get rid of all of this, and that will leave the imported turbines. Something else that we can do though is we actually have some electric motors being created and stored somewhere else, which is where the turbines are. So we're going to delete the wind turbine here, add a power pole, and then I need to make room for it. So we're going to move this the sorter down one. Then we are going to grab a depot, and we're just going to fly them in. We're going to use some logistics distributor and the drones, or the bots, and we are going to request in. Before I request in, I want to limit this. We're going to do 1 stack and request in the electric motors. Okay, so that should help us with that. That was going to be a very big problem soon. We have very limited amounts of sorters. I'm also going to grab a stack of the pile sorters over here. We will need those on the next planet. I want a full stack. We're also going to need some of the interstellar logistics vessels. And we might as well grab some drones because I like to have the drones on me. I'm also going to need some more power. Add that. Okay. I've also I increased the amount of assembling machines and the smelters that we could have stored here, and I do have some of those on me, so I'm keeping 200 of each at the moment, and I don't think there's anything that I need to add. We're gonna definitely need some more miners soon, so let's get some miners. And I think that might be it for now. We're pretty much done with the bots. So the logistics distributors that we have, we probably won't need too much of them anymore. I do need a couple, let's just put it that way. Okay, so before we take off, there's a couple things. One, I want to increase the storage on the hydrogen and probably the refined oil as well. This is definitely not something that I want to stop moving. We are going to have a much easier access, a much larger supply of hydrogen soon, but for now I would like to stockpile as much as we can. We will need to start converting that into deuterium soon. So we have these storage units here. So we've been using this for our titanium and our silicon, just stuff that we needed access to. So we are going to reuse these, but we're actually going to convert these down to the regular depots. Leaving a space in between. Give these logistics distributors, and we're going to be we're still going to be using these as access for other things. So this is going to be where we're going to make the ship out the processors. So this is titanium, processors, and silicon. Silicon's probably not that big of a deal. I might not even bring in that much of these, it's perfectly fine leaving them with the processors. That's the majority of the amount that we will need anyways. But we will have it here just in case. So I'm going to actually reduce this to, let's do like 5 stacks each. And then I need an ILS. Just somewhere in the middle. So I haven't really talked that much about these other than the kind of long-winded mentioning of how we were going to set up builds in the last episode. So generally the way that these work is they have the logistics drones, which are your planetary, your local item movers, and then you have the interstellar logistics vessels, which deal with interplanetary and interstellar. So if we need to bring anything in from other planets, this is how it will come in. And if anything needs to be moved on our current planet or the planet that this is located on, then that will be these. So I tend to just prefer to add all of the drones and all of the vessels either way. So every time I drop one of these, I drop the 100 of the drones and 10 of the vessels into them. And it will charge over time because before your drones or your vessels take off, they will kind of collect or take out the amount of energy that is required to make the trip there and back. So this is going to cause problems with our power, especially on the other planet. And then ask for distributing and requesting. So I'm going to put these in the order that I set them up on these logistics distributors. So you can see here we have local provider, remote provider. We can click on these. Local depot, local receiver, remote depot. So the local deals with just the items that are on this planet. The provider means that we can dish these out to other PLS and ILS. The receiver means we are requesting in from other PLS or ILS. And this is all locally, so this is just the planet. The remote is how we deal with interplanetary and interstellar. Same thing, the provider means that we can give it out from this machine. Remote means that we are requesting it in. As for the remote depot and the local depot, these are basically just storage. This is just saying that, like, I don't really even know why there's a difference between local and receiver, or local and remote. They're both the same thing. It's just a big chest, basically. Think of that. It's a glorified chest. You would be much better off taking normal storage and just stacking it up if you needed this much storage. So when we're talking about bringing materials into it, it's just as simple as bringing it in. It does have to be filtered though. So we would not be able to bring in, say, iron ore into this without actually filtering this for iron ore. You can also clear the settings here. You can adjust however many you want to have stored. And as far as bringing items out, there's a couple of ways to handle that. One is click on it and start to drag it out. You can either go ahead and pull it out now, which would not allow anything to come out because it is unfiltered, and it has to be filtered. So there's a few ways to go about filtering it. One, you have the belt there already. You can then click on this filter here above the belt and add the filter. Two, you can do it when you create the belt. So you can tab through here to kind of determine which one you want. Or if you already have a belt active, you can hold your belt, click on it, and change it here. So the disadvantage of doing it this way, this is the worst one, by the way, when you already have a belt and then you are adding a filter onto it. The reason why is if we already had product in here and you started tabbing through the filters, it will accept those filters before you get to the one that you want. So I would definitely suggest one of the first two. I generally try to set the filter before I actually have it come out. And actually, let's not do it this way. I'm going to put it on top of a splitter first. Okay, so now I have set these back up for the splitter. And the first one was titanium. The second one, I could have lined these up a little better. It is what it is processors. And the last one is silicon. They are filtered for 5 stacks. This is powered. This has the machines in here. And we are good to go. So as for some of the settings, the max charging settings, if we were to turn this up, this is the amount of charging that can be dealt or that can be given to the charging unit. So if this was completely out, this would be on the lower end charging at 60 megawatts. Right now you can see it's at 11.5 and going down. The reason why is the closer it gets to 100, the less it takes from the grid. Drone target range, this is just like coverage on the planet. Just leave it at 100. What is that, 180? Just leave it at 180. That is perfectly fine. Vessel transport range, it is currently set to unlimited. That is preferable. That means that it can basically travel anywhere in the galaxy once we unlock warpers. The warp distance, this is one that you might want to fiddle with. So if you have a situation where it's taking, now, okay, warpers aren't necessarily that expensive, but if you're using a lot of them, they can kind of be costly as far as production value goes, like the amount of time that it takes to get more. Anyways, you could actually warp within a system if you had 2 planets that were kind of a lot farther away from each other. It's taking your vessels a long time to travel back and forth. You can make it so that the warp distance is reduced. So you can say, you know what, I want them to warp if it is more than 6 astronomical units away from wherever we're at. Or you can set it higher. Let's say that you did actually, let's say you had like faster vessel speed. You've been researching an infinite speed that allows them to go faster. You don't want them to warp in this large solar system that you might have. You can set this to be higher. 60 AU is basically you're not going to have anything in range of the solar system. So everything within the solar system would not use warpers at all. I don't even think that I've seen more than maybe in the 12 range is probably some of the highest that I've seen. Anyways, the minimum load of drones and the minimum load of vessels. So if we look at our research, our upgrades, there were a few things that we added for the logistics bots, but this also changed the capacity of the drones and at some point also the logistics vessels. So you can see that we're adding capacity to the bots, adding capacity to the drones, and adding capacity to the vessels. And it should be over here somewhere. Mecha? Why am I not seeing this? Logistics bots carry capacity is 14. Wow, I was like looking right at it. The drone capacity is 50, so they can move 50 items per trip, and the vessels can move 400. So if, for instance, right now the drone capacity is set to 10%, that means that as long as they have at least 5, they can transport it. If we jump that up to 100%, that means that they can't move anything unless they have at least 50 to move. The reason why this is important is because every time they make a trip, they are pulling off your power. So it is important to know that maybe you want them to collect at least half. Like if your production is a bit lower, you might want them lower. It is default set to 10%. It's totally up to you. I am pretty confident that I only want them moving probably at least 50%, probably closer to 100. This is one that you probably won't mess around with too much. Leaving it at 10% is perfectly fine. You don't want to be changing every single one of these that you place. We're going to end up placing hundreds or possibly even thousands of these over the course of the rest of the game. The minimum load of the vessels, though, is one that is a little bit more important. So later in the game, they will be able to transport up to 2,000 items at a time, and this means that they can only transport it if it is 2,000. But there are some situations where you might, for instance, want some buildings. So maybe I want to request in some assembling machines, we don't want it to wait till 2000. We want it to be sending, the amount that we want to us. So you can actually reduce this down, not just to 10%, but all the way down to 1%. So this is something that we will need to keep in mind for later. Anyways, I am going to go to the other planet now and set up the buddy on the other end. Okay, so we are back on planet number 2, and we have our titanium, we have our silicon, and over here we have our processors. They are still creating away. We have still not filled up this chest. We have a lot though. This is quite a bit. So some other things that we need to know. One, we need to update our power soon, because we did start with, I think it was either 62 or 64,000 of the coal. We're now down to almost 27,000 and 2 nodes left. So this power is going to be dwindling pretty soon. The ILS that we have is pretty power hungry, so it is going to crush our power, which just means that this is going to be pulling more coal, eating it up a lot faster, and then these will be producing a lot less. So this is something that we want to kind of address at some point. I don't think we have any. We have 15 of these, so I'm going to go ahead and add some of these. Yeah, it definitely didn't really help us much, but that's okay. We can turn this down a little bit. That should help some. Not much, but a little bit. So the next power that I would prefer to have is the fusion power, but where did that go? Here it is. We might have to kind of not have that. We might have to make a build for the hydrogen power. So I was kind of hoping to skip this one, but it looks like we might end up needing that anyways. So we will probably end up setting up a build for that. I mean, I know we have some bots for it, but we might have like a dedicated build. Hydrogen is kind of hard to come by, but it should be one of those things that shouldn't be much of a problem in the near future. Okay, so enough of that. There's a couple of things that I want to mention. One is I haven't really talked about soil that much. So we have a lot of water on the planet, and if you remember in the last episode, I had kind of created this giant square on the other planet. I should have showed this before I left, but it ended up using a lot of soil. So I used probably almost 200,000 soil on that, and we have about 57, 58. And the dark fog is generally one of the best ways to kind of farm the soil. We can see that if we look at the battlefield analysis unit, base, whatever. This is the dark fog setting or filter. So these are all the different things that we can collect from the dark fog. You can see that a lot of this is stuff that we have already unlocked. Some of it, like the grading crystals and the unipolar magnet, are things that in theory we have access to now, but we don't really, just because it takes so long to get there. We also haven't created any deuterium yet, but again, we have the ability to make it. So yeah, soil is one of those things that we definitely get a lot of from the dark fog. So we will probably start farming them soon. We need to get a little bit more established, and we will probably start farming them at least a little bit on our 3rd planet. We haven't really had to deal with the dark fog too much, but they are collecting some bases over here. So they have 4, so we have a little bit of an opportunity to farm them. But until that point, if we go to the build menu, you can kind of see that as you start moving the mouse around on the build menu, you can see the changes here, and that's the changes in elevation. On the snowy planets, it's a lot easier to see the changes, and sometimes I like to just go around and farm a little bit, and this is how you would manage that. It's also nice to have a lot of the buildings in your inventory, so that also helps out. And the only reason I'm showing you this is just in case you had questions on how to do this. I might do a little bit of farming, but for the most part, I'm just going to go with whatever we have. And most of the farming that I will do will be off screen, so I will probably be back here and start taking out some of these larger mounds. Anyways, enough of that. So we need to start moving some products to the ILS that we have. And I am going to drag a belt over to it like that. And then take our pile sorter. There we go. And we can add some more, why not? So we're still good on power. Okay. You can also see that they are piling up to 4 high, which is fantastic. At some point near the end of the game, these will actually be good enough to supply an entire belt of 4 stack, like a full belt of items stacked 4 high completely by themselves. So one of those will be able to handle doing that at the end of the game. And that is via the last upgrade that we do not have access to, where the pile sorter can load and unload at the same time. Anyways, so similar to the receiving station, this will not start to add anything until we have it set. So I'm going to go ahead and set that for the processors. You might also consider lowering the quantities. So this is probably going to be here for a while, but just in case it's not, I'm going to limit this to 2,000. This shouldn't affect us too much because this entire time we've only made about 10,000, a little over 10,000 of the processors. So this is going to clear up a lot of space. We're also going to be sending a lot of this back and forth. So we're probably going to go through this decently fast. Anyways, I'm also going to set up for the titanium and the silicon. And after that, I will be back on the other planet. Okay, so we are back on our home world, and I totally forgot to set this up before we left. Also, with the other planet, the ILS on the other side, I did set it up to be a local receiver, just in case we end up going over there and creating some more of this. Anyways, I'm going to start ordering some of this in. I'm just going to do like 2,000 because I know that a lot of the stuff that we have built, basically everything that we've made at this point in time is temporary. Its days are numbered. We will be reducing all of it to ashes, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, we will be taking everything down to make way for kind of the mid and late game builds. So we are going to receive these. Whoops. And remote receiver. There we go. They are off. You can kind of see that they are on the way. Blue is the process of bringing something in, and like a brownish orange is what it looks like when it is being taken out. Because what it does is it basically like allots the space for it before it decides to go pick it up. Another neat thing is you can actually see them on your star map. So they are also color coded. You can see that these are the ones that contain titanium. These are the ones that contain the silicon, and these two yellowish brownish ones are the ones that contain the processor. So they are a little color coded. It's really not that big of a deal. It's kind of hard to notice when they're, you know, like way out when we're like looking at them on the Interstellar map. And you can also see that they kind of trade back and forth. All right, so we have that set up. Now, at this point, before I actually start making builds, there are a few things that I like to do. One, I'm definitely going to need some more of the bots. Yay, our first shipment. Sorry, drones. So hopefully we have a few of these. We've got a couple extra. I also usually create slots just for all of this so that we have like dedicated storage slots for these, but I will wait until we have a bit bigger inventory before I do that. Ooh, also, I can get rid of these. Kind of, not really. Yeah, why not? Okay, so I have 200 of these. That's kind of good enough. So what I am going to be doing over the next little bit is we are actually going to start tapping the rest of the resources around the planet. So we have some untapped iron over here. We've got some copper up here, some more iron over here. Lots of oil around the map, some copper, some iron. I'm not too concerned about some of the stone. Coal, sure. Copper and iron, definitely. The stone, maybe. I don't even see any more stone. I think all the stone was kind of near where we started. Coal. I've got some stone buried over here somewhere. I forget where exactly. Oh, here it is. Stone there. Yeah, I mean, we do need to tap some of the stone, but... so one thing that I like to do is I like to look and go, okay, I've got some coal here, some stone here, a little bit of room for coal here. I've got 2 oil down here. I need to find maybe a central location for these. I'm not going to do that one to start with. We're going to get the iron first. We can do one over here. So it kind of doesn't really matter. We don't need like 1 PLS per. It can hold 4 different items. So having iron, having oil, having copper, and coal is perfectly acceptable. A lot of times I'll maybe just aim for like 2. So maybe we would do like iron and the crude oil. Different nodes, I would do different PLS. So I wouldn't like try to go, okay, I'm going to try to collect all of the iron into one. It is kind of nice to have them spread out. So let's go up here and we're going to set that up. And in the process, like in between this episode and the next episode, I'm actually going to tap a lot of the materials around the map. I'm going to tap a lot of the oil, a lot of the iron, copper, coal, stone, all of that. Because in some cases, the faster we can get rid of some of this, the better. So this one is actually, like I said, basically going to have its own little thing. And there's no particular place that is better than others, as long as you give yourself enough room for belts. And again, we're not being particular at this point. As long as we have the power to handle this, then that is fine. We're going to give these guys some of the drones. And this is going to be iron, and this is going to be oil, right? Yeah. I don't think I have any of the oil extractors on me, so yeah, that's fine. So this is basically all I'm gonna be doing. Now, I'm not following the whole, ooh, I only want to get 6 and be careful to, you know, certain ones are a waste. Literally, the more that you can pile around this, the better, because that just increases the speed at which you can collect them. I like to take a more like flat side, like let's say this side, this angle here, or maybe something like this. And I either make like a football shape around it, and then same with over here, like a football shape on this side. Or I try to make like a square, so like square it off flat here, and then flat here, and then flat here. You kind of get the idea. Just squeeze in as many as you can. So I'm going to set this up. I'm going to get some oil extractors. We're going to hook this up, and then we will end the episode. Okay, so I have finished up setting up the mines for the iron, and I have dropped 2 oil extractors on the oil. And then this will fill up, and this will have access to the network. So that is going to be it for me for this episode. In the next episode, well, I should say before the next episode. So in between now and the next episode, like I said, I'm going to tap a lot more of these nodes: the copper, the iron, the oil, especially the oil, the coal, some stone. We definitely want to have access to a lot of the stuff in our drone network. And I might even go tap some on the other planet as well, the second planet. And that way, once we enter the next episode, we can just start to set up some builds, and we will definitely be deep into the mid game. Okay, so that is part of what's coming up. We're going to be, over the next couple of episodes, we'll be setting up some builds that will pretty much start reproducing a lot of the stuff that we have. So the copper, the magnets, the iron, the stone brick, glass, maybe not the silicone because we have We have that on the other planet, but then we will also want to start setting up some of the components, gears, circuits. So basically, we're just going to be scaling up on a lot of the stuff that we have. Maybe not everything, like the prisms and the plasma insiders, I'm not too concerned about at the moment. Some of the stuff that we've already started making in bulk, like the titanium alloy and some of these over here, the turbines, the electric motors. Like a lot of that stuff we can hold off on some of that stuff. Anyways, I would also like to start upgrading towards some of our combat stuff, which is all down here on the bottom. And the gas giant, wow. The orbital collector as well. We are gonna need some of this soon. We do have the accumulators unlocked. Okay, so let's activate that. And at this point, we can pretty much just start adding in some of this stuff. So missile turrets, which we should have probably done a long time ago. The signal tower is very important. And then we will need some of this stuff too, but let's just get a few of these. I cannot queue this up. Oh, I already added that, sorry. Drones next. What do we need? We need the photon combiner. Okay. I'm also going to do some upgrades. All right, so that is it for me for this episode. I will see you in the next episode, and thanks for watching.